YouTube resolution will be a little bit higher. Sorry, I got all kinds of stuff going on here. Sorry, peeps and friends. Okay, but it does have better color quality and resolution, so you can see all that stuff here. But so here's what we finished up yesterday. These three little dudes. My favorite, probably this one, just because there's a little bit more going on the actual miniature itself. But you can see what we were able to get going. So today we're going to be knocking out 3 more. Really the only other work that I did on them, I started this guy's armor here, so I did all of the kind of like bronzy, brassy color, did the wash on it, and so we'll be moving on from that. Of course, I thought I was prepared and I dragged the window over. I'm just pulling up the character art from everything that I was looking at. Let's do Big Man here first. That's probably going to be the first guy that we're working on. So we'll work on him. So we got the horns on the top of his head. We have a couple things we could do first. Let's just go ahead and, well, let's knock out a couple birds with one stone. So we're going to start with the metalwork. Oh, you are almost empty. Ring the alarm. I'm almost out of plate mail metal. Just kidding. You know me, I have extra bottles around me. But that bottle's almost dead. I've had that bottle for over a year. So that should tell you how much, I mean, I paint every day almost, but that should tell you how much utility you can get out of one bottle of that paint. So anyway, I did adjust my camera, so I have to figure out what I'm looking at here as I'm looking at my live view. So right now I'm just going to be doing the base coats for the metals. What's nice is anything that I'm about to, like, I know we have to paint the horns still on him, and then whenever I actually do that, we're going to apply another wash to it, and that wash is going to be the same wash that is applied to the metal. So in my head, just doing a little bit of mental juggling, you know, just kind of thinking a couple steps ahead. Now the artwork has his shoulder pads like a bone color. What I find interesting about this game is that the artwork is kind of like monochromatic to a certain extent. They're definitely like toned a certain color, but I am just sort of taking a little bit of liberty in assuming, like, yeah, his shoulder pads are probably metallic armor and other parts like that, and it'll also just make the miniatures paint job a little bit more interesting, you know. But anyway, if it's your first time watching, thanks for hanging out with us today. If you have any questions, anything like that, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll be able to get with you and see if I can help you out with some answers, whatever it is you may be interested in. I know yesterday we had a lot of good back and forth between people, so always appreciate you. And I do use like this same base color for metals, but we can vary it up depending on what washes we apply. So we can make some of it just be like a dark wash, and well, we're gonna go over that anyway. I was a little bit concerned there because it looked like I had gotten it kind of in the wrong area. And forgive me too if I'm like messing around with the actual, so give me 1 second. Since I have this new camera on here, I don't necessarily know the best focus range because it has way more options. Oh my god, it's on this monitor. I have 3 monitors in front of me, so I'm always trying to figure out where it's opening stuff. Okay, hold on. So we want the focus to be like right about there. There it is. There it is. That'll work for us. All right, awesome. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so we're gonna keep the focus at about there. Alright, so I had mistakenly gotten a little bit of metal there on a portion where it really shouldn't be metal, but it'll be alright because we're going to have to go back over that anyway. So I'm not super concerned. I think I'll even do the plating behind this little medallion shaped doodad. And I actually don't... I'm gonna have to figure out what that is too on the shield. I need to look at the full body art to figure that out. But anyway. Hope everybody's having an awesome Thursday out there. Getting ready for the weekend. If you have anything cool going on. I know Saturday I'm having a little bit of a gaming group show up. We're going to play some games. Hang out, eat some food. So that'll be fun. Take a little break from all the work. Alright, so we'll let that stuff kind of dry there. Move on to her. Now I'm going to use more of like a bronze color for most of her stuff, but we'll go ahead and apply wherever I think silver should be. Alright, this bad boy right here. So just picking out a couple details there. How's it going, Philip? Hope you're doing alright. Alright, yeah, so for him, that's pretty much all the silver. Okay. Feeling much better than I did yesterday. So whatever the doctors have me taking, it's working. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself, since I've been sick for like 2 weeks. So just doing a loose base color that I can then go back over with a wash. on all kinds of areas here. I'm going to use the same color. I like this color from the Army Painter because it's a really good utility tone. So what that means is you're able to, you can pretty much apply any kind of color wash to it, and it'll really bend to the tone that you apply. So if you want it to look like bone, you can make it look like bone. If you want it to look like a different material, you just apply a different color to it, or you can leave it more this same color by applying a black. Really, it's just a really great utility color, so that's why I'm using it to cover a lot of the same thing. Andrew, good question. Give me 1 second here, and I will answer that for you. So for bases, I usually charge extra. This client is just getting like normal black bases, like with what you see here. So just black bases, nothing crazy. But I'll give you a nice little breakdown. The only reason I'm not answering right now is because I got the consistency I was looking for this color, so I want to make sure before it dries a little bit and thickens up that I'm able to apply this coat evenly everywhere I want it to go really quick. Whenever you have paint mixed to the right consistency, it's like, oh, okay, gotta move. I usually like mine to be a little bit over wet, that way I can move super fast with it, as you can see. Just going real quick. And usually when you have it thin down like that with water, it gives it a little bit more body, so it looks like it's a little bit thicker, but when it dries, it evaporates out, and you have all your detail remaining. Alright, I shouldn't need 2 coats on that before the wash, so we should be okay. Just making sure that's everything I want in that color. Yep, cool. So just applying that bone color everywhere. Alright, so basing. What a great question, Andrew. So let me help you out here. All right, so for bases, couple things, right? Now, depending on what the client actually asks for, they may just get a standard base with nothing on it. So, just on the base that comes from the manufacturer. However, for nicer stuff, like one of the Kickstarter clients that I have right now, you can get a basic basing situation started by using corkboard. I use corkboard all the time because after you apply texture to it, it looks really nice, and it just looks more realistic. Usually, and as you can tell, right, this isn't painted, so I put them on the base beforehand. Some people like to leave things removed, and sometimes I do it as well, depending on like the complicated nature of the miniature. Like this guy's not going to be difficult to paint on the base, so it doesn't matter. Other times you'll get stuff where the base is already sculpted. So like this is from the same Kickstarter. It's like a reef and underwater situation. So I will apply the miniature to this because she stands right in the middle, and then I'll just paint everything around it, and it's not that big of a deal. So that's kind of like the way that I evaluate bases and stuff like that. I always attach to the base first, unless it just literally would make it difficult for me to paint. And especially if it's like a tabletop level commission, a heroic level commission, I really don't care about painting what you're not going to see anyway. So, you know, if you're not going to see it, why would you care about painting it? And if it's going to be on a base and you can't see it when you're looking at the miniature, you really shouldn't worry about it. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on that situation. But hopefully that answers the question for you. So, as we were waiting on that, that color has dried. I don't think I really have anything of that color on any of these other guys. Actually, let me check the artwork here that I have up. No, yeah, we're good. Yeah, I don't really think we need to worry too much there. Just looking to see what I haven't painted. I'm still kind of confused when I'm looking at... Maybe this is a feather? I'm not actually 100% sure. Cork duct tape. I don't know about what that is. I like the thickness. I like the 1/4 inch because I think it looks good for 28mm miniatures. So that's why I normally use it all the time. I know you can get it. You can get cork in different consistencies as well. So really, it's just personal preference at that point. So let's go ahead and use the weapons bronze for the other part of the shield here. I might apply... Oh, and we're going to apply it too on the other character. I may need to thin this out a little bit. There we go. Good enough for me. And why don't we go ahead and break this up? So we'll do these 3 in this color as well. And remember too, my paints go on so thin, it doesn't really matter if I've painted something already. I can always go back on top, and any kind of detail that I may lose is super negligible. It doesn't really matter. Alright, so the stuff that we're doing on her right now is a little bit more fine, so to speak, just because of how small the sections are, but nothing too insane. As long as your brush tip is good, you should be alright. And if your brush tip isn't good, then toss that bad boy. So you can see I'm just doing the edge there. If you didn't see the stream yesterday, make sure you check out the page. Give it a like if you want, but I also painted the other 3 yesterday while we were streaming, so if you'd like to check that out in that process. Pretty much everything except for the base coating was done on them. So you can see the process from bringing them up from washes. Now, for tabletop level stuff like I'm doing right now, usually sheaths for weapons, I'll just do a metallic color. Sometimes I won't, but either way, just for the nature of speed and what the client pays for. Really kind of smaller details like that, the techniques that I use will always be the same, but I usually, you know, I don't skimp, so to speak, on the colors, on the color palette. I don't have restrictions or anything. Like, if you pay the lowest level, there's no, like, you're only going to get 3 colors. I don't do stuff like that, but I do usually reuse the same color palette off and on in different, you know, aspects of the miniatures. Alright, so we've made our way past that step, so now we can actually start doing some washes. So that's what we're going to do. Don't really know how much it will need, so I'll just apply that there. We're definitely going to need more wash, but that's alright. Get some more out here. Not the soft tone, there we go. I know these are dropper bottles, but I always like to just use the cap. I feel like I get a little bit more control for whatever reason. I always squeeze way too much out when I use the actual dropper part of the dropper bottle, so I know sometimes people are like, why do you take the cap off if it's a dropper bottle? Well, there's your answer, because I'm kind of a moron when it comes to that sometimes. So you can see there when I was applying it, I did it with the side of the brush so that I could actually control and like manipulate that so that it pools around the correct areas. Obviously it looks really wet right now, but it will dry that exact same way. How's it going, Chris? Hope you're having a good day. And if it's a little bit too much, you can pull it back off with the brush. Or you can move it around depending on where it was applied. What are you doing down there? Arthur's being weird today. Something in the air. Alright, relatively happy with those. I might go over the skulls again one more time. Just to double down on that shadow. Cool. So I only need a little bit for the other character. Christmas shopping. I have done all of my Christmas shopping on Amazon, except for my dad. I bought him... Well, he may actually be... It doesn't matter. I mean, I know he watches sometimes. But I got him something at the Games Workshop store today, so... Ooh, these new headphones I bought are terrible, but my cat destroyed my other one. Ow, they just hurt. I'm used to using the Bose in-ear that are, like, sculpted. I have them around here somewhere still. But one of the ears is blown out, so I can't hear anything. So that's on my Christmas list, is getting better earphones. Or earbuds, rather. So, to answer your question, Quarantine? I use a size 00 brush for everything. I think it's really important... if you're trying to get fast and get really good brush control, that you use the same size brush as much as you possibly can at all times. For me, I'm more comfortable with the size 00. Yesterday, we sort of discovered that potentially in Europe, there's a different sizing, like category or scale. So I have no idea, but if you search like size 00 or 010 or 020, it's around the same size. The only thing that'll vary is the actual length of the tip of the brush. And then as for brand or anything like that, if you're a new painter, you know, if you're brand new, I always suggest going a little bit cheaper, not like super cheap. You know, if you're spending maybe $5 for each brush and you take good care of them, or if you're buying them in like this painting sets, you know, I would always suggest going that way until you kind of figure out how long brushes last you in the way that you currently paint, and then that way, you know, you can invest in something nicer if you're ready for that, if you are ready to take care of brushes and things like that. So, but yeah, that's my answer for that as I investigate why our YouTube channel decided, okay, there we go. There's the music. Oh, I missed one little area here. She has quite a bit of stuff unpainted still. We need to go back in. Hey Barry, how's it going? Black, brass, and copper. Yeah. Those always look good. They're always usually used in like warmer, darker color palettes, so. Alright, so his washes are still drying a bit. If you ever see me looking off in this direction, it's because I'm looking at the blown up shot on this monitor. So after this dries, I might go with a black wash on top of that color, just to dinge it up a little bit more. We still need to go through and highlight up the fur. I'm thinking I'll just dry brush it. I don't know. I mean, I'm normally not a fan of dry brushing, but fur that's sculpted like this is just asking for it. Oh, you're from France. Way. No, I'm kidding. J'étudiais en français depuis 14 ans. I'm sure I mispronounced it that time as well, but excusez. Quelle heure est-il au Canada, wherever you're at? Alright, so anyway, we're literally waiting on paint to dry. Sorry, guys. I know that's no fun. So this month's Patreon paint along is going to be with, you can't even see them. What's up, White Balance? We're going to be painting these two miniatures live together, all the Patreon people. You can check out what I do on Patreon. It's more intended for painters, so you can check out patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. There we go, we'll kill that light. So I'm not sure if we're going to be painting them both. Probably not. We're probably just going to pick one. But we're going to start doing it every month. On the 1st of the month or the 30th, I'll announce what miniatures we're painting next. You can get these two for $5. Get them at your local store. So we're going to be selecting one of them and painting them live together as a live painting lesson. Still on the big old painting table, we got some of the stuff from the Frozen Ninja Kickstarter. So that'll be fun. If you haven't seen that, this is one of the miniatures from that Kickstarter. So this is a display level. Obviously, it's bigger, so it's easier to do really awesome color transitions, stuff like that. But, you know. Live from Montreal. Very cool, very cool. Glad to see you. I actually have no idea what we're looking at right now with people watching. 25. That's cool. Thanks for hanging out today. You know, there's nothing wrong with dry brushing. I actually was having a conversation with one of my Patreon people about that. Dry brushing is a great technique. The only reason I don't use it is because, one, it does destroy brushes really fast. But two, I usually can work faster just doing direct highlights, and the style that I paint in kind of lends itself to doing direct highlights. So sometimes if I mix in dry brushing, it doesn't feel congruent with the overall paint job. And you have less control. Now, I actually will probably show you live on stream right now what I was explaining to one of my Patreon Deuterinos. Let's see if I have an extra brush laying around that I don't care. We can sacrifice. So we can sacrifice this brush. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to make how should I put it? A precise dry brushing brush. So you're going to take a brush you don't care about. You know, let's call this guy Jim. We don't care about Jim. Jim's no good for us anymore. He can't do any detail work, so we got to cut him, right? So what you can do, you can take a brush like this. You know, if it's frayed and you can't get it to a point, and actually this brush is probably fine. That's why I don't use it anymore, because it's just frayed at the very end. But so you can take a brush like this, and what we're going to do is cut it flat like an eraser all the way down to like right there. So you want to make sure you're using a sharp hobby knife for that, which for whatever reason this is not working. Hold on. There we go. I had to push way harder. So you want to cut it flat, just like so, and fray it out a little bit more. And the reason why you would use a brush like this, you can buy brushes that are pre-made. They're usually a lot bigger, but for detailed dry brushing, I prefer a small brush like this. So what you can see, what we're left with is a relatively flat surface that's only so big, right? And you're going to be able to get a lot of control out of it. So if I still have some metallic paint here that's wet, and I don't, so let me get a little bit out. Alright, so instead of using a brush that can get all over the place, when I'm dry brushing with this, see if I can, yeah, we can do it on this guy's blade. I'm able to literally control where I'm doing the dry brush. So now I can go in and dry brush up those highlights, but in a really, really controlled area. Like you can see, I'm going right up against the tip of the edge of that blade. And if I was using a brush that's like this long, right, I may not be able to control that. So this was a tip I was giving one of my Patreon people last night. You can always sacrifice an old brush, cut it down like an eraser at the very edge, and then you have a very, very precise and controlled dry brushing brush. So I hope you enjoy that little tidbit of info. But that's really the only reason I don't like dry brushing all the time, is because it's a little bit hard to control, can't be as precise. It's a great technique though. But for me personally. And then too, if it's not a tabletop level commission, I just don't dry brush. I feel like, you know, if you're paying me some cash, you probably want something a little bit better than that. And even most commissions that I do, especially recently that are tabletop, I don't even have an application for dry brushing. But why don't we go ahead and do that technique with this new brush we just made on this guy right here. When I do dry brush, I always try and keep, I always try and have it make sense based upon the actual light. So you can see this brush works really well. And I'm able to guide and shape the actual highlight because we did that kind of eraser effect. Now, the color that I'm actually doing the highlight with isn't that drastic compared to the base tone. The new camera that I just put up today that we're using may pick up that color difference a little bit better, but that's what we're actually working on. And then I'll go back down here a little bit. Down the back. So if I hold it like this, you'll be able to tell what's happening. So it's really, really subtle, but at least I can be very precise with it. With a larger brush, you can't be as precise. Now, obviously, if you're doing something really big, you want to use a bigger brush. But for most applications of dry brushing, I've found, at least for me, you're always using your brush like a pencil almost, unless you're using the edge of the brush. So for me, it makes sense. Chop down an old brush you don't use. Do it flat like an eraser, so you have a flat working edge to actually run that pigment with. And then you'll be able to get a good dry brush effect out of it. So, but as you can see, this has worked pretty well. We now have that highlighted up just fine. And you can see the shadows are in there. I only highlighted up the sections that look like they're being illuminated with the light. So that's kind of the idea behind it. If you don't have an old brush to cannibalize and you dry brush all the time, just go to Hobby Lobby or somewhere and buy one of those sets of like synthetic brushes that are all the same size for like $5, and then just literally cut all of them. Even if they're not all the same size, just make yourself a set of dry brush specific tools, and then you'll have a nice little set that you can work with. You won't have to worry about messing them up because they're not your normal brushes. So I need to clean this off there real quick. I had some pigment drying in it. I didn't need that. Then what I'm going to do is actually paint on the actual color, because I'll go back through and wash it up again. So what you'll see me do here, right where that dry brush really, really starts to take over, I'm going to fill in the whole area. This is another technique you can mix with dry brushing, where you dry brush up quite a bit and then you paint the pigment directly on and then you wash over it one more time, and then that way you can really bring out some contrast. Alright, so now that I have that on there, we can drop in a little bit more color. We could do the strong tone for that, but I think we'll do this, we'll do it a lot heavier wash. I only need I don't even need a drop on there for that. But yeah, most clients, like I was saying, they don't necessarily care what I do. As long as it looks good, right? But for me, dry brushing, even though it's a super efficient method, I just kind of find that it destroys what I use a little bit too fast. So you can see on those areas where I did the dry brushing, it fades back up to the pure pigment, applying a little bit of wash on top, and then we get more detail. And then as this wash actually dries, the pigment kind of desaturates, so it's not as dark as it appears. Right now I'm just going back through and kind of increasing the shadows by doing some line work with the wash in the cracks. A little bit of a cheat there. Oh, I can use this wash here, though, for sure. Since I was sort of complaining about the way this looked. This will really dull it down for sure. There we go. That'll dull it down quite a bit, especially as it dries. Alright, so now we can move on to highlights. For the skin, I'm not actually sure what I would want to use. Could probably use this Monster Brown here from the Army Painter. His skin is kind of like a, I don't know, the artwork makes it look green, and then he has like this white, kind of grayish fur. But everything that I've seen, at least in the way that it's sculpted, that wouldn't necessarily make total sense because they didn't sculpt the transition between the two different fur colors. So we'll make do. I may need to highlight this up just a little bit with another color. And I need it to have a little bit more pigment, so we can use this Ceramic Coat Khaki. There we go. Just give it a little bit more body. So you can see we're just highlighting up just a little bit, bringing out a little bit more detail. I am not sure what we're painting tomorrow. I think that depends on what I paint later this evening, not on the stream. Maybe more Scythe, I don't know, we'll see. Or if I get something in the mail tomorrow before stream. I know I have a couple things coming. Maybe I'll actually work on the Patreon raffle miniature, because tomorrow is the Patreon raffle. We'll figure that out. I've been so busy. And the eyes are red. Let's do Scarlet. The infamous Vallejo. Thank you, Cody. Happy holidays to you, too. Hope you're having a great week so far. Just going in with the side of the brush here to make sure I'm not going to dot too much paint. There we go. So now we got those spooky scarlet eyes going on, just like the artwork. Alright, so now we can highlight up for whatever word I'm thinking of that I can't seem to get out of my brain. Right, so we're going to highlight back up to the skeleton bone color that we were working with earlier. Don't need much for this. I'll water it down. Actually, this brush is kind of annoying me here. Let me see if it's salvageable. Nope, rest in peace. That's all she wrote. Alright. I think I have a different one right here, though, that's just fine. Yeah, I do. Alright. So I'm going to water it down a little bit. We'll highlight up all these bone areas that we applied the washes to. You can see I did the highlighting only in the middle ridges there so that it makes that contrast pop anymore. I have a whole explanation for that. To answer your question, he asked, do you have any tips for painting really fine details like eyes, things like that? And I do. Just give me a second here while I apply what I have mixed. So just highlighting up the skulls, and I'll probably apply another wash to him after doing that. Let's get his teeth. Arthur, quit messing with that. Alright, and we'll highlight up the bone horn right on the ridge. Arthur, you're killing me, dude. Why are you doing that? My cat is messing with a package right now that I have by my table. And I know eventually he's going to try and eat something out of it, so can't let him do that. When he gets hungry, he turns into a monster, I'm telling you. Alright, so got all those highlights done. You can see those there on the horn. Everything else as well. So for fine details, hey, what did I tell you, man? You're gonna get in trouble. He's gonna get put in kitty timeout. So for fine details, the easiest way I can explain it, let me get a color that's really gonna pop on camera. Which, oh, it's right here, okay. So, detail. So a good way to understand kind of how your brush is going to work, whenever you're doing fine details, and I'll do it here on my wrist, if you're going straight down, as you push, the brush is going to fan out and create a larger dot so it's easy to mess up and apply too much paint. If instead you come at it at an angle, so instead of coming, like, let's say me moving to the left is 90 degrees directly down, you're going to want to come from like 45 degrees, and that way the tip of your brush is only going to hit at that very, very tip instead of get smashed in. So instead of like this where I dotted straight down and created that size, using the same brush coming at a super extreme low angle, well, of course the paint dried on the tip of the brush there a little bit too much. It's also one of the reasons why I thin my paints a lot while I work, because you can get a lot more detail. All right, here we go. So coming at it from an angle, you can see the size difference. So that's why you don't want to go directly down. If this is an eye, I'm like, oh, I applied way too much, right? You don't want to do that. Instead, you want to come at an angle and just get the tip of that. I mean, look, you can barely see. I mean, obviously it's not in focus, but you can see the size difference. So that's the advice I always give people. Go at stuff at an angle and you will have a much easier time painting fine detail. But all right, let's see. We've been going for about an hour, so I'm going to take my usual hour break. We'll finish this guy out when I return and probably move on to another one. But thanks so much for hanging out so far today. I haven't really been seeing how many people are hanging out. 44. So sorry, but I do always take a break every hour, go stretch, move around, stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing really quick. Feel free to hang around, enjoy the music. Hey, Jennifer, glad to see you again. But I'll be right back. I'm going to take a break and try and distract my cat since he's going crazy. But thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in about 5 minutes. Cat. Let's have a treat, shall we? Would you like a treat? Come here. Alright, boys and girls. I'm back. Hopefully satiated the cat, so he'll chill out for another hour. So, big thank you. I just noticed we hit 750 likes on the page. It would be awesome if we could hit 800 today. That'd be amazing. So if you haven't already liked the page, feel free to do so. You'll be able to check out anything that I'm painting, working on, and see the streams every day and all that stuff too. So please like the page if you haven't already. That would be great. So, well, let's keep on working here. So we need to finish this guy out. Oh, look at that. The music just dramatically disappeared on us. You can see the wash that we applied to that weapon bronze color really killed out the shine and made it look pretty much as dirty as I was hoping. What we can do now to get him one step closer to completion is continue with the silver highlights. I know we had started dry brushing certain parts of it, but we're not going to dry brush everything. We're going to do direct highlights. Give me 1 second. I think the actual YouTube channel that I'm watching is the issue we're experiencing here. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, they're having problems. Okay, let's try this one instead. There we go. There we go. There's some different music for you. All right. So what I'm focusing on now is just doing edge highlights on stuff to bring that metallic color back up. Now for the plating, I do want to leave most of the shading that we got, so I'm just going to focus on the edges, the little spikes and everything. But we'll leave the majority of this, that actual shaded down color. And just go around the edges like that. So we're leaving them inside, just going around the outside. As always, for everybody watching today, thanks so much for hanging out. I always appreciate you. If you have any questions, anything like that, always feel free to ask. If you haven't liked the page, please do. I also offer a Patreon. If you are a painter yourself, definitely check that out. I offer all kinds of cool stuff from classes. And right now I've been really busy, so the production slowed down just a tad, but I do a raffle every month as well, different things like that. So that's patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. If you yourself are a painter, or you've ever wanted to start painting, we have a private Facebook group where I do direct feedback with all the people, and we always have a good time. But if that isn't your shtick, that's not an issue. I always just appreciate people hanging out. No big deal. And if you yourself ever need anything commission painted, feel free to ask. My pricing is always available online. It doesn't change or anything, and I offer discounts in bulk. So you can go to minipainting.studio/pricing to see what I've got going on there. But again, if that isn't your thing, no big deal. I know the page hit 750 today. If it hits, if I get 50 more likes today, I'll do a 30% off special tomorrow on all orders, which would be technically the largest discount I've ever done, but we'll go ahead and throw that out there. But only if we hit 800 likes today. Which I think is possible. We can do that. I believe in you, Internet. You're all rock stars. And I don't really get anything out of getting a bunch of page likes, so... Other than love and a nice warm feeling deep in my belly. Hey, Jeremy. So I use a mixture, pretty much about 4 or 5 different... Nah, definitely 5 to 6 different brands. Right now, I'm using mostly Army Painter. I use a lot of Vallejo. I use Watercolor paints, Reaper paints, some Games Workshop paints as well, but not a lot. The collection of paints that I have to pull from at all times, I have like over 100 in front of me, so just really whatever I'm using that makes sense at the time, I just pull it out. I have a lot of go-to colors that I use for stuff, so that's what it is. Right now, I am running a 12% off special for the 12 days of Christmas. No minimum order or anything like that. So if you're ever wanted anything, feel free to ask. I am relatively booked up, so you can lock in. Everything that I do is a 50% deposit up front. So if you want to lock in that discount, you can do so, even if it's a Kickstarter, something that you don't have in your possession yet. And you can save some money that way. But I think we are good on the... Oh, right, his weapon there. His weapon. We gotta do a little bit of work on. I would say though right now, so normally my commissions have a 15-day turnaround time. Business day, I work Monday through Friday, full time. But if you order anything from me right now, you're looking at like mid to late January, only because I had... Like, this commission was a rush Christmas order, so it kind of pushed stuff. It didn't push anything back I have on my table, but it's pushing back further future commissions. And then I have another giant rush order coming in the mail the next day or so. 97 miniatures, so... For a Warhammer player that has a tournament the first week in January, so we're going to be slamming through that. But otherwise, it's a really quick turnaround time. Under about a month, just over a month possibly, but usually it's under a month. But obviously, the holiday season, people like to get stuff done, so... Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Just checking out on the other screen there. I'm thinking he looks pretty rad. Looking at his artwork. So yeah, I mean, I did change up some different stuff. But I think it captures the essence pretty well. I did want to do another wash. Nah, we can probably do another wash there. Let's see. We could use this flesh color. My special right now is 12% off anything. The special I was running before that was like 15 off 100, 20 off 200. Now it's just 12 with no minimums. So, if you don't have a giant project, it's still a good deal. If you have a giant project, not as good as it was, you know, last week, but still a good discount. Just throwing this Vallejo flesh wash in some of the shadowy areas because it warms things up a little bit. I like the color. It's like a magenta tone. Does a good job of breaking up monotony. Alright, yeah. I'd say that's about it. Pretty happy. This is tabletop right now. So this is my basic lowest tier. So this is the lowest tier compared to the highest tier, to give you an idea of the level of difference and techniques that are used. But on minipainting.studio/pricing, you can see a comparison shot of all these guys. So these are all painted at the different levels. Womp. There you go. You can see that there. Just to give you an idea. Obviously, every paint job's different. But it at least shows you, like, the same miniature painted 3 ways. Jay, to answer your question, I don't airbrush anything. If I am airbrushing anything, it would literally just be to prime it. That's about it. I do hand priming for the most part, just because weather can make it difficult, you know. Either it's too humid or too cold here, one or the other, so. Alright, so our next victim. We could probably finish this dude out relatively easy. Let me see what his cloak is like. Green on the inside, tan on the outside. We can do that. This little guy right here. I mean, maybe I'll just go green for the cloak in general, because you can't really see that green, and I think green's a good contrast against the copper we've been using, so we'll do that. So we'll use this kind of basic army green, and then I'll apply a green tone to it that'll give it a lot deeper shadows and a lot more pigment. Be a little bit more vibrant. Looks like this guy's got like a lasso on his hip, so we'll leave that for another color. He has some pouches as well. So we'll just use that typical raw sienna for that. There's a hair right there. There we go. What is in his hand? That looks like a potion. Then he's got that stuff going on. He has a blue glow on the eyes in the middle. So we'll go ahead and apply that blue really quick as well. We'll use that same awesome Vallejo bright super light blue. Hey Chris, how's it going, man? Hope you're having a good day. I know I got started a little bit earlier than usual. I don't know why I've been starting so early. I think it's because I'm literally painting so much every day right now, like 12 to 14 hours. So, but I usually, like this morning I assembled a bunch of stuff, literally starting at like 7:30 in the morning. So my whole day has been kind of pushed forward. Then I went and picked up another commission, went to the Games Workshop store. Been a busy day. But you gotta work hard to make things happen. That's how that goes. And that's the only blue on there? Yeah, it's the only blue. Alright. Austin, what I sell is my painting service. So if you have stuff that you want to get painted, you ship it to me, and I paint it, and I ship it back. But these are from the game Gloomhaven, which is sold out and out of print. So I had read somewhere, sometime in January, they're re-releasing the game. So definitely, if you want this game, don't pay the scalping price. There's someone locally that's trying to sell it for $300, which, hey, I mean, if you want it, you want it. I mean, I bought a pair of Yeezys before it, insane markup, so I feel you, but I would just wait, because it is going to be coming back out, so. That coffee went down the wrong way. Ooh, almost died. All right. So we had the green on there. We can go ahead and wash it. I'm sure it's dry. How many drop frames have we had today? 0. Nice. Nice, nice. We don't want drop frames. Let me make sure I hit record. Okay, good, I did. So, Austin, what you would do is you would buy the miniature you want, and then You could ship it directly to me, whatever. I will say the pricing for individual, like anything under 10 is more expensive than what I have quoted. So, you know, for me, it doesn't, you know, I do this full time. So for me to take on a single miniature from a client, I have to charge a lot more than I normally would to make it viable for my time. So just know that ahead of time. But yeah, you would find what miniature you want. You could either drop ship it to me, whatever the deal is. Pay 50% deposit, I paint it for you, and then ship it back. So that's pretty much how it goes. You can see the wash I'm applying right now is very green, so we're increasing the pigment there that's going on, so it's going to look a little bit more saturated than the color we started with, but when it dries, it'll, like, the shadows will be green themselves. A little bit different than doing a shade wash or something like that, but same effect that you're going for. And really, I mean, we don't even necessarily have to highlight up from that. We could probably just let it rock out on its own. So it depends, obviously, right, what it is, but if you don't pay for basing, because basing's always extra, then you just get black base. I can do a color, like if you want them to be, you know, like an earthen color or something like that, I can do that as well, but you just get one plain color. So like these guys, right, the client didn't pay for basing or anything, so you just get a black base, pretty standard. Depending on the game too, like, I know some, like with Scythe and stuff like that, if you don't pay for basing, people sometimes want the rim to be the color of the faction. I can do that for you. So really it just depends on the game, the model, whatever it is, but basing is a charge for material cost, so it's added to your total. There's never a discount on that unless you're getting a huge order, like the guy that just ordered 96. He's getting free basing, but he's also not getting the cheapest tier. So, you know, I'm really flexible, but that's kind of how I price stuff out and manage it in my head and everything. Thank you, Bailey. Always appreciate kind words. And if you don't have kind words, I ban you from the page. I've only ever had to do that once. Some guy, like, hopped in and literally started dropping, like, really bad language. I mean, it was crazy. Like, hate speech in the chat. And I don't even know how he found the stream. It was kind of funny. And then other people started jumping on him. And I told him, thank you. Have a great day. And I banned him. But that's what's great about the tabletop community, man. It's always nice people. I will say it's been really refreshing coming from the job that I had before I started. Am I even on camera with this? Sorry, guys. I moved my camera setup, so I don't really know where I'm at. The jobs that I would do before this, you know, totally thankless. And I know I've explained it before on stream, and it's kind of like a crazy story, but the job that I came from before I started trying this out, and about a year ago or so, night and day. You know, it's one thing to work a 9-to-5 job, and I mean, everybody does it, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's bad in any way, shape, or form, but it's nice to suddenly be in an environment where people are excited for you to do something for them, you know what I mean? Really refreshing, change of pace. So I was hoping I could do direct highlights, but I needed to fill that section in before I highlighted up the rest of this stuff. I'm not sure what's on his back. I'm assuming it's more potions. That's what it looks like. So we could do those in a couple random colors here. So I will say Betrayal is really not a good game to get painted. Those miniatures, I mean, I would have to strip all the paint off of them, Billy. And they're also not, like, the Betrayal miniatures, the Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. I just got those, and I'll show you one of them. All I did was apply a wash to it, and you can see, obviously, the dumb drooping staff I need to fix with hot water. But I applied a wash and increased the level of detail. But these are the same miniatures that they're using for the D&D minis, right? So they're a little bit better detail. But the actual, like, Betrayal original game, those are either ruined by the amount of paint they put on them, or they just don't have a lot of detail. Sometimes it just doesn't work out to try and have certain things painted. I I definitely wouldn't try and paint them over a tabletop level because I don't think they're that great. A good example of that are the heroes from the game Scythe. If you look at my page, those miniatures do not have a lot of good detail. They just weren't sculpted to do that, so I never take a Scythe commission over tabletop level just because I know that, you know, if someone was like, I want to pay you the money to do display, and I could take that, but ethically, right, like, you can't paint them beyond a certain level. You could, but it just doesn't make sense. They don't have a lot of detail. So I know because I own Betrayal 2, the original, and I just know those minis, there's not a lot you could do to them. You could do them tabletop level. You would have to strip them really well, leave them in simple green, maybe even hit them with acetone, right? Or an alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, but you would have to do a lot of work to repaint them correctly. So that's my advice there. Like, these miniatures for Gloomhaven, obviously, unless they've changed the miniatures. The copy of Betrayal I have, I bought like 3 or 4 years ago. So if they've reprinted and put better minis in there, I could be wrong. But, you know, these guys are meant to be painted. They are really high detail, high quality. Still soft plastic, but, you know, most games nowadays end up using soft plastic. Alright, so what we're doing now is we're going to be highlighting up the brass, or the bronze, I should say, on his armor. So for this, we're literally just going to be picking out small details, because we want to leave most of the shade and everything in there, and just kind of highlight up certain sections. You can tell I'm trying to really focus on this because I stopped talking. Mostly because this guy is so small, his armor piece sections are really tiny, and I'm not, you know, it's just like coloring in a coloring book. I'm trying not to go outside the lines here of what I'm highlighting, so a little bit more concentration than normal, because this is a tiny boy. Tiny little dude here with a shriveled up prune face. Little raisin man. So you can see what's happening here, sort of. I mean, he's so small, he's hard to keep in focus. There we go. So I was just picking out highlights. Anytime, if you haven't watched me before, I'm staring off over here. I'm looking at the enlarged view. It's kind of like a magnifying glass, but not really. It's just the blown up version of my camera, so I can kind of see how it reads. But since this guy is so small, only so much detail we can really pick out. Alright, so we're going to bust out more of the dark tone here. Or strong tone, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so Billy, if you just need to make those slight changes, I would honestly just recommend giving it a shot yourself. If you don't want to add shadows or anything crazy like that, just pick up a couple things of craft paint. Doesn't have to be expensive, like the $1.50, $1.20 bottles. A little brush and just go real slow, and you should be able to do that. I always encourage people to figure out and give painting a try. You never know, you might fall in love with it and it becomes a hobby. Alright, so I just applied a little wash right there over the different bags that we just painted, the area that I needed to fill in, so now we can highlight that stuff up. And then I also applied it to the blue area so I can highlight that. I have a Space Marine commission coming on the way. And then sometime, I think in January, I have a Dark Angels army as well. What was that? Where are you, cat? That was a noise. Alright, so what I did there was thin out that blue paint so you can still see the metallic shine below it, but it also looks like that centerpiece is glowing. I don't normally do object-oriented lighting, which is what that is, or object source lighting, but that was so easy, why wouldn't I? Alright, so we need just 2 random colors for potions. Why don't we do this this pale violet red, and then a purple, and then we'll wash them so they don't look super pigmented, and then that'll be it. Looking at his artwork, can you tell, or are those the, Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he actually has a pink and bluish, purpley potion on his back already, so that'll work just fine for us. I actually don't think I got enough pigment out of that one, so we may need a little bit of help on it. We'll see how that dries. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't shake that bottle enough. Shame on me. And obviously that looks super wet, which it is, but it should dry through evaporation. And I know the color of the potion in his hand is different in the artwork, but since we already used this color once on one potion, it'll just help tie it together on the miniature. So the only thing left I need to paint is this little hand crossbow. I just don't know what brown to use. That's why I've been avoiding it the whole time. Just because I'm like, I don't really know, man. I mean, I have all kinds of browns. I'm thinking a lighter brown. So what I'll do is I'll take this raw sienna and I'll mix in some of that bone color and we'll lighten it up quite a bit. So let me hop over here. One memento. 30 people watching. Well, I'm so glad you are hanging out with me today. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great day. I know the week's almost over. I saw that the page hit 750 likes. I don't know what we're at right now. But earlier I did say if it hits 800 today, somehow, some way, I'll do a 30% off sale tomorrow. I know that that goal is pretty lofty, though, so that's not, you know, whatever. Just talking out of my ear on that one. So what I'm doing is I'm going to paint this a much lighter color, and then we'll probably apply the sienna wash to it, and it'll really brown it out, so to speak, but in a, like... or a sepia wash, sorry. I don't know if I said sienna wash. But obviously it'll apply that sepia tone. And then I think I'll apply it to the feathers as well on the bolts, but then we'll highlight that back up to the bone color and it'll just look like feathers. So that's our plan and we're sticking to it. So that'll be dry here in 2 shakes. Maybe just 1 shake. Looks like 1 shake. So we'll go ahead and apply this wash. Alright, so you can see the color that toned it down to. Much warmer brown, and obviously the weapon sticks out a lot more, like, oh yeah, he's got something going on there. He or she. I don't know if these things have genders. I don't know. One thing I like about Gloomhaven is that they went like 100% original with the IP, so it's like all these kind of weird races and stuff they've put together. So if you're just now joining, here's the guy that we completed first today on stream. Looking pretty cool, looking pretty rad. Yesterday, these are the 3 that we did. So you can see what we've been working on. I'm just making sure it's in focus here for you. These are all tabletop level quality that I would do, so it's my lowest tier of work. But obviously, looking good for the tabletop. It's always the goal. And if you yourself are a painter, these are all really simple techniques that we use to get to this level. We did all 3 of these on the stream in like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half. Today, this guy took a little bit longer than I expected, so he took about an hour to flesh out and finish. So that's why we're above and beyond our kind of time frame here. And then we got this little man. I mean, this one's pretty much done, to be honest with you. It's so small, the camera isn't necessarily picking everything out for us, but yeah, I think he's done for our intents and purposes. And then that leaves this senorita right here, who we've pretty much done a lot of base work on. Just need to highlight stuff up. I need to change the breastplate to green, because I mean, she's wearing green, right? Yeah, the artwork's green, so we can do that. We can change that out real quick as well. And then her mask, what color are we dealing with? Brown, okay. Everything on top of this so far was mostly just washes on the actual deep taupe base coat. So that's what we were dealing with. Thank you, Ava. Yeah, the Brute's a good miniature. Without spoiling anything. Now I'll go ahead and spoil the game for everybody. Snape kills Dumbledore on page 834. No, I'm kidding. All of the different miniatures in Gloomhaven, since I've obviously had to open it up and see them all, they're all really awesome. One thing I like about the game too, they do have, right, like they came up with their own races and everything. But what's nice is all of the sculpts and all the different things that you get eventually as you play through the game are all very unique. So like everything that you're unlocking feels brand new, looks really cool. But yeah, this guy's definitely a really fun sculpt. I like the overall feel of it, kind of that darker, gloomier, as it were. Little play on words there. So we're just going to wait for that color to rest. We'll apply a wash, and then we can start knocking out everything else on her. She obviously has, yeah, she's a human, so she's got normal flesh. We can go ahead and do that, actually. No reason not to. We'll use the Vallejo flesh tone for, or the wash. Make sure we're good. Every time I adjust my camera, if it's your first time seeing my streams, you probably wouldn't even be able to notice the difference between the other videos, but I got a new camera that we're using today. So the only difference is it has a sharper lens for the 1080p stuff that I re-upload to YouTube. Oh, what are you doing, bro? That was messy. One nice thing about paint, you can always just wipe it off if you're fast enough, and we were fast enough there. There we go. It's gonna get washed anyway with the green tone, so that's cool. But it's a little bit cleaner for the higher res stuff that we're doing, and it had a better white balance filter, so got a little bit better camera here. But since I had to install the new camera and move my scissor arm and everything, I'm not really sure at all times where my focal point is. So that's one challenge of the day that I've been dealing with. So we're just doing this skin tone, and then we'll apply a wash to it. Real simple. And then highlight it back up. She's wearing a glove on that hand, and I think a glove on the other hand. So we'll stick with that. We'll just say she's rocking gloves. We won't rock the boat. So I do need to let that dry for a second before we apply anything. Let me grab my phone because I did hear it go off. As always, if you are watching and you have any questions, anything like that, feel free to drop it in the chat. And I'll always be able to help you out. Sorry, a client messaged me, so I'm trying to see what's going on. So 18B9. I have no idea, Carol. I don't use Lamia medium. So, literally it's the same thing as floating medium that you can buy from Hobby Lobby for $1.99. So, Games Workshop really pulled a fast one on people with that stuff. This is matte, so, but yeah, floating medium is what you're looking for. Don't buy the GW stuff. Alexa, what is 18 times 9 minus... Alexa, stop. Alexa, what is 18 times 9 minus 12%? Alexa, what is 18 times 9 minus 12%?
18 times 9 minus 12% is 150.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys, 1 second. So if you were wondering and you wanted to get your Gloomhaven painted right now for tabletop quality, so, you know, this quality right here, it is currently $150 including the discount. Alrighty. So that's a guy in Australia. Thank you, Philip. Friendly Philip. Friendly Philip in the chat. Alright, so we are going to apply 2 washes at once, and we're going to roll the dice to see if I can mess up everything we've been working on today. So let's cross our fingers and see how dumb I can be. But it would be great to have these guys finished. I know the client was hoping to play a game of Gloomhaven before Christmas, so having the base classes done first would be nice, just in case, you know, I don't get to that point and he can still play, but I think I'll be fine. I quoted him like the 21st or 22nd, so I think I'll be good. That's already been washed. Alright, so now we're going to use the Vallejo. Ooh, Vallejo Flesh Wash. Ooh, look, I'm like Vanna White. What crossword are you talking about? On the other guy? Don't tell me how to live my life, Philip. It's not nice. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Alright, so now we're going to apply the Flesh Wash here. Let's get her a little bit closer. Alright, so you can see it looks pretty red right there when you apply it, like really magenta, but as it dries, it chills out and it looks more realistic. But now that means we have to wait. And since I don't have anything else to paint, I mean, we could just paint the bases black on these, but I mean, you know what we could do actually is apply their clear coat real quick, so I'll apply this, the best stuff in the business, the Army Painter Anti-Shine. So I had a nail that's been driving me nuts. So what I'm doing right now is I'm applying varnish so none of this paint comes off. And you'll be able to enjoy your beautifully painted miniature for years to come. Unless, of course, you know, you are walking around with it in your pocket. Then you may have some issues, but otherwise, you're good. I always say, handle painted miniatures like you're handling a baby. No, I'm kidding. But you don't want to be, like, super crazy with your painted stuff. But anyway, you just apply it all over, and it actually helps kind of, like, smooth out skin tones a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it looks good with everything. Like, it's been applied to this guy, and his metallics still look bright, shiny, so... Looks like he just is dripping in water. But what's great is it dries completely matte, so it looks just like you did when you painted it. Alright, let's see how she's looking. So she's almost dry, but you can see that nice shade and contrast that's on the skin right there. Yeah, 1 layer is fine. It goes on pretty thick. Alright. So... see, it's starting to dry pretty fast on this guy as well. So what we can do is use a little bit brighter green to highlight up our lady here. So that's what we'll do. Give me a second here to check out what's going on the page. Oh, all right. Oh, I don't have my focus up. Sorry, guys. There we go. So we got those highlights applied. No, I mean, it's just matte medium, so it would just mix with the paint. But I don't know why you would apply paint to wet varnish. Alright, her hair just appears to be brown, so we could use our raw sienna and just apply a different color wash. Keep it simple. Maybe I'll wash this with the same color as the flesh. That'd be interesting. I can tell I'm feeling better because I don't want to kill myself after 2 hours of streaming. So yeah, I mean, it should dry just fine if it's a clear matte medium, but if you applied paint on top of dry paint, then the pigments would mix, right? So, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen what you're talking about, so I don't really know, right? But, generally speaking, you don't want to paint on top of a color you're not trying to mix that color with, right? Like when you do wet blending, that's why it works so well, because you're mixing two wet colors and they blend together and they can transition. But otherwise, you don't really want to be doing that. That's a no for me, man. Alright, so we're just waiting on that to dry. And I have a strange animal all over my legs. Hold on. He's being such a rude boy. Rude boy. Oh, he's so big. Oh, God. Ugh. Arthur's going to hang out with us for a minute while we wait for that to dry. Play him like a drum. All right, dude, you going to help us paint? So, he's like, first, you grab the miniature, like so, and you pick it up. What a goon, Arthur. So I think all we'll do is just, I mean, I guess we could finish her out, actually, because she has the gloves. We can finish the whole thing right now. Yeah, let's do it. I was about to say, we'll just do her hair and we'll be done. Let's do the whole miniature if we can. We'll fudge a little bit, paint this section. Arthur is now in my lap, so my angle is a little bit weird to paint, but we will work around it. So if I'm not getting her all the way on camera, blame it on the giant monster in my lap currently. So then we'll just go back through after this, after we do the final washing, and highlight up the other parts of her little outfit there. She'll be good to go. Thank you. Arthur, unfortunately, knows he's cute, and so he takes advantage of that thoroughly. He's so big. He's so big. Arthur, what you doing, dude? He's nice. He acts more like a dog than he does a cat. All he cares about is food and sleep, so pretty typical. Alright, so you can check out on the hair there. We just applied a different colored wash to get it all nice and detailed. But, as you can see, I probably only have like 10 minutes left to actually finish her out. But I do normally cut streams off at about 2 hours, because when I do the editing for the speed stuff for the Patreon, 2 hours is like a long time to edit through, so we're gonna call it today. But thank you so much for hanging out today. As always, I always appreciate you. If it's the first time you've seen my stream or anything like that, feel free to like the page and you can see all my other work that I do. If you would ever be interested in anything being commission painted for you, go ahead and drop me a line right now, since I just figured the price. Painting Gloomhaven, including my current discount at tabletop level, which is what you saw today, is $150. 50% up front, 50% when you're done. But beyond that, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I will see all of you again tomorrow at 2 p.m. CST.